Your financial situation isn't shaped by your job, your effort, or the economy. It's shaped by something quieter, something far more powerful: the way you speak to yourself. Right now, this very moment, the internal conversation happening in your mind is doing more to shape your money story than anything in your outer world. Most people don't realize this. They wake up each morning and unconsciously carry yesterday into today. Same thoughts, same worries, same language, and then they wonder why their money never really changes. They think they need more hustle, more strategies, more time. But what they actually need is a different internal dialogue, because wealth doesn't start with a paycheck. It starts with a pattern. Repeated thoughts, repeated words, repeated emotional signals you send to your body and your subconscious every single day. And if that pattern never changes, your outer world won't either. You've tried changing your habits. You've tried forcing new outcomes. But have you ever really changed the way you talk to yourself about money? That's where the shift happens. That's where the freedom starts. Because that voice inside you, it's not just narrating your life, it's building it. And here's what most people never realize. It doesn't take years to change. You don't need months of affirmations or decades of discipline. You just need 5 days. 5 days of conscious, focused, wealth-aligned self-talk. 5 days of speaking to yourself from the perspective of who you're becoming, not the limitations of your past. And that's where we begin right now. So I want you to pause with me for a moment. Take a deep breath in. Hold it. Exhale slowly. One more time. In through your nose. Hold. And out through your mouth. Now place your hand over your heart and repeat after me. I'm open to receive unexpected money. Say it again, like you mean it. I'm open to receive unexpected money. And one more time, with certainty. I'm open to receive unexpected money. That's not just a phrase, it's a signal. To your subconscious, to your nervous system, to the energy field around you. But don't just say it. Write it down. Yes, right now if you can. Why? Because writing is one of the most powerful tools for transformation. It takes a thought and turns it into form. It tells your brain, your body, and your subconscious, this matters now. So write it exactly like this. I'm open to receive unexpected money. Type it in your notes. Write it on a sticky note. Or even better, drop it in the comments below this video. Not for attention, but because something powerful happens when you make it visible. Now, let's talk about what's really been blocking you. The average person thinks about 60,000 thoughts per day, and for most, 70 to 80% of those are negative and repetitive, especially around money. We don't even notice it. We think we're just reacting to life. But what we're actually doing is repeating it. Every time you say something like, "It's hard to make money," "I'm not good with finances," "I'll probably mess it up anyway," you're not describing reality. You're reinforcing it. And it's not just mindset. Your body responds to those words as if they're threats. Cortisol rises. Tension builds. You shift into survival mode. Tight, guarded, defensive. And guess what doesn't flow in survival? Wealth, ease, opportunity. When you speak from lack, you vibrate with lack. And that vibration quietly repels the very freedom you're craving. But here's the truth. If all of this can happen through unconscious self-talk, imagine what happens when you do it on purpose. What if, for just 5 days, you committed to a new financial conversation? One rooted in power, one rooted in worth, one rooted in the belief that money is already on its way to you. That's not just positive thinking, that's rewiring, and it starts right now. If this feels like truth, if it's landing deeper than just words on a screen and you can feel something in you shifting, you'll want to stay connected. Subscribing keeps you close to this energy, to the version of you you're stepping into. So let's talk about how this actually works. For the next 5 days, you're not going to hope for change. You're going to practice it. Because your inner conversation about money needs three things: direction, repetition, and timing. You can't just say something once and expect everything to shift. You have to become the kind of person who reminds yourself who you really are, again and again, until it sticks. And the best place to begin is the morning. Not 5 minutes after your alarm, not after checking your phone, not once your mind has already picked up yesterday's momentum. Right when you wake up, because in that moment, before your thinking speeds up, your mind is soft, open, receptive. It's listening. And what you say in those first few moments sets the tone for your entire day. Here's what you do. Before you get up, before you move into anything else, just sit up, take a breath, and begin talking to yourself like someone you trust. Not a cheerleader, not someone who's pretending, but someone who knows who they are and what they're aligned with. Speak slowly, speak clearly, and say things that feel like truth, not fantasy. You might say, "This day is a clean slate. I'm not carrying my past with me. Money is not my enemy. It's a reflection of how I see myself. I'm not chasing. I'm receiving. I'm open. I'm steady. I'm ready." Say it out loud, even if it's quiet, even if your voice shakes. Because when you speak from the identity you're stepping into, you begin to teach your system how to trust it. This is about feeling it in your body, not just mentally repeating words. Don't rush. Don't try to memorize a list. Just talk to yourself, clearly, calmly, like someone who's safe to listen to. You'll be surprised how quickly your energy shifts when you do this consistently, first thing in the morning, because you're no longer being pulled into yesterday. You're no longer unconsciously reacting to old stories. You're choosing. And your nervous system? It notices. Over time, it begins to recognize that this way of speaking is your new baseline. And from that place, you don't have to force outcomes anymore. You become someone who receives what matches who you've become. If this is speaking to something real inside you, then make it easy to keep coming back. Click the subscribe button now, because this isn't just a video. It's a turning point, and you'll want to stay connected to what you're becoming. Now let's talk about the end of your day, because most people don't realize that what you say to yourself right before sleep carries more weight than almost anything else. That final inner conversation? It slips past logic, past resistance, and goes straight into your subconscious. And while you're sleeping, your subconscious gets to work, building, organizing, rehearsing whatever you fed it last. So what happens if the last thing you tell yourself is, "I didn't get enough done. I'm still behind. I don't know how I'll fix this"? Your body tenses up. Your breath shortens. And even as you sleep, your system stays in low-level stress. But if you use those last few minutes before bed to realign your inner conversation, everything changes. Not instantly, but steadily, powerfully, and in a way you feel. So here's what to do. Before sleep, turn off your screen, sit quietly, put one hand on your body, and speak to yourself like someone you care about, not to fix anything, but to remind yourself of who you're becoming. You might say, "Today I showed up differently. I'm shifting, even if I can't see it all yet. I'm building new foundations, quietly, consistently." Let it be simple. Let it be true. You're not trying to manifest anything in this moment. You're just anchoring the energy you want your system to rest in. Because sleep isn't just recovery. It's integration. It's when your subconscious starts organizing everything you've fed it. And if your last thoughts are rooted in trust, not fear, then your body heals faster. Your brain resets more clearly. Your vibration recalibrates while you rest. That's why this part matters so much. It's the final message your system receives before going offline. So make it count. End your day not with judgment, but with awareness. Not with pressure, but with peace. This isn't about pretending everything's perfect. It's about closing the day with alignment, so you wake up ready to continue, not recover. And here's what to expect. Somewhere around day 2 or day 3, you're going to feel like it's not working. You might wake up feeling heavy. You might notice old thoughts returning. You might catch yourself wondering if this even makes a difference. That's normal. It's expected. And it's not a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're actually shifting. Because when you stop feeding the old story, it doesn't just vanish. It fights for your attention. It shows up as doubt, as discomfort, as a voice that says, this is fake. You're just making this up. Nothing's changing. That voice isn't the truth. It's just the old identity trying to stay alive. It's the part of you that's been used to fear, used to struggle, used to preparing for the worst, because that felt safer than expecting the best. But now you're interrupting it. You're no longer reacting. You're observing. You're choosing. And that choice can feel unfamiliar, even wrong at first, because your system has been trained to equate survival with control. And when you step into receiving, ease, trust, that can feel like danger until it doesn't. So when the voice shows up, don't panic, don't argue, just notice it, pause, breathe, and respond calmly. Say to yourself, this feeling is temporary. This is just the old pattern passing through. It doesn't mean I'm doing it wrong, it means I'm doing it differently. This is how new identity is formed. Not through motivation, through maintenance, through choosing a new response, even when the old one still feels louder. And every time you do that, you build the muscle. The muscle that says, I no longer believe every thought that shows up. That's what changes everything. Because once you know you can hear the voice and not follow it, you're free. Free to keep going. Free to stay centered. Free to keep speaking the truth of who you really are, even when the old version of you is still trying to have the last word. And if you can do that for 5 days, you'll feel it. In your body, in your breath, in your energy. Something inside will soften, and something new will settle in. You might not see a huge sum of money drop into your lap on day 3, but that doesn't mean nothing is happening, because change doesn't always show up first in your bank balance. It shows up in your emotional state. You'll notice you don't panic as easily. You don't spiral as quickly. You don't carry that same heaviness in your chest when you think about bills or income or the future. And that alone is powerful, because most people don't realize how much of their financial struggle is emotional. It's not just about numbers. It's about nervous system overload. It's about old fear, stuck patterns, buried shame. And the moment you begin speaking to yourself differently, those patterns begin to loosen. You start breathing differently. You start responding to situations with a little more space, a little less urgency. And maybe for the first time in years, you realize you're not in a crisis. You're just in a transition. That shift in feeling? That's real. That's progress. Next, you'll start noticing changes in how you see things. A situation that used to send you into stress mode now feels workable. A problem that once looked impossible suddenly has options. You start noticing opportunities that were always there, but hidden behind the fog of fear and lack. It could be a message from someone, an idea you hadn't considered, a new perspective on something you've been stuck on for months. That's not coincidence. That's your subconscious aligning with the new story. Because once your emotional state stabilizes, your perception opens. And once perception opens, your behavior changes. You start sending the email. You finally raise your rate. You say no to something that drains your time and energy. You follow a nudge that leads to a door opening. You stop acting like someone who's afraid to lose money, and start moving like someone who knows they're a match for more. You might not realize it as it's happening, but suddenly, you're no longer waiting for financial freedom to arrive. You're starting to walk like someone who already has it, and that's where things start shifting externally. Maybe not in dramatic ways at first, but in undeniable ways. Because when your inner world changes, your outer world has no choice but to respond. If this is resonating for you, and you know you're ready to keep shifting, go ahead and subscribe. Not for me, for you. So this new story keeps growing every time you come back. Let me give you a few real examples. Nothing dramatic, nothing out of reach. Just what happens when someone shifts their financial self-talk for even a few days. One person began this 5-day practice while feeling completely stuck in their career. They'd been repeating the same inner story for months. I'm underpaid. There's no room to grow. I don't have the right background to do anything else. For 5 days, they practiced one thing, speaking to themselves like someone who deserved more. Not faking it, just choosing a better story. By day 3, they'd reconnected with someone from their past who casually mentioned an opening. It wasn't magic. It wasn't luck. It was a shift in perception. And because they weren't weighed down by doubt, they saw it. By day 5, they'd applied. By the end of the month, they had a new role. Better pay, better hours, and more space to grow. Not because the opportunity suddenly appeared, but because they finally recognized it as something meant for them. Another person began this practice feeling ashamed of their finances. They were in debt, avoiding their statements, repeating the same thoughts every day. I'm terrible with money. I always mess this up. It's too late to fix this. But something changed when they stopped trying to solve everything at once and simply started talking to themselves with more respect. They began saying things like, I'm learning how to handle money with clarity. I'm not stuck, I'm becoming. Every choice I make now is shaping a different future. The shame didn't disappear overnight, but the panic started to fade. They made one decision they'd been avoiding. They called someone for help. They opened a conversation instead of avoiding it. They looked at their accounts without the usual fear, and from that simple act of clarity, momentum returned. They found a new rhythm, not because everything was fixed, but because they were no longer fighting themselves. And a third person, quiet, hesitant, not someone who'd ever considered mindset work, started this 5-day self-talk reset as a last resort. They'd always carried the belief that money just isn't for people like me. They grew up with scarcity. They expected struggle, and part of them had already accepted it as permanent. But for 5 days, they told a new story. A gentle one. A possible one. They didn't win the lottery. They didn't get a giant deposit. But they did get something more important. They felt peaceful. For the first time in years, they weren't at war with themselves around money. And when peace shows up, money doesn't feel so far away anymore. So here's what you need to remember now. You don't have to see the entire shift to know that it's working. You don't need proof in your bank account right this second. Because what you've been doing over these last 5 days, it runs deeper than numbers. You've been interrupting the pattern, not just the surface thoughts, but the emotional signature that's been quietly shaping your life for years. And that kind of work, that kind of self-honesty, it matters. Because most people never do it. They stay stuck in the same financial story. Not because they're lazy, not because they're not smart, but because no one ever told them where to look. They change the job. They download a new budgeting app. They double their workload. And yet, nothing moves. Because the real shift was never outside of them. It was here, in the conversation behind the scenes. The one that plays on repeat when no one's watching. The one that either welcomes money in or silently keeps it away. And now you've started changing that. 5 days ago, you were probably still reacting to old evidence, old bank statements, old experiences, old identity. And now? Now you've begun speaking from a different place. A place where you're no longer chasing the solution. You're becoming it. And even if the outer world hasn't caught up yet, the signal you're sending is entirely different. You're no longer vibrating with fear. You're vibrating with readiness. And that alone begins to shift things around you. People feel it. Opportunities align with it. Your decisions, your emotions, your timing, it all adjusts to match. Because here's the truth. Your financial reality isn't just a spreadsheet. It's a system. It's a living mirror of how safe, deserving, and capable you feel when it comes to money. So what happens when you stop repeating, I'm behind, and start repeating, I'm becoming? What happens when your self-talk stops sounding like survival and starts sounding like leadership? Everything changes, not all at once, but in waves, and the most important wave is the first one. The one that says, I'm done giving my power to fear. I'm done talking to myself like someone who's stuck. I'm done waiting to feel worthy of more. You already are. You always were. Now your words finally match that truth. So here's what you need to remember now. You don't have to see the entire shift to know that it's working. You don't need proof in your bank account right this second. Because what you've been doing over these last 5 days, it runs deeper than numbers. You've been interrupting the pattern, not just the surface thoughts, but the emotional signature that's been quietly shaping your life for years. And that kind of work, that kind of self-honesty, it matters. Because most people never do it. They stay stuck in the same financial story. Not because they're lazy, not because they're not smart, but because no one ever told them where to look. They change the job. They download a new budgeting app. They double their workload. And yet, nothing moves. Because the real shift was never outside of them. It was here, in the conversation behind the scenes. The one that plays on repeat when no one's watching. The one that either welcomes money in or silently keeps it away. And now you've started changing that. 5 days ago, you were probably still reacting to old evidence, old bank statements, old experiences, old identity. And now? Now you've begun speaking from a different place. A place where you're no longer chasing the solution. You're becoming it. And even if the outer world hasn't caught up yet, the signal you're sending is entirely different. You're no longer vibrating with fear, you're vibrating with readiness. And that alone begins to shift things around you. People feel it. Opportunities align with it. Your decisions, your emotions, your timing, it all adjusts to match. Because here's the truth. Your financial reality isn't just a spreadsheet. It's a system. It's a living mirror of how safe, deserving, and capable you feel when it comes to money. So what happens when you stop repeating, I'm behind, and start repeating, I'm becoming? What happens when your self-talk stops sounding like survival and starts sounding like leadership? Everything changes, not all at once, but in waves, and the most important wave is the first one. The one that says, I'm done giving my power to fear. I'm done talking to myself like someone who's stuck. I'm done waiting to feel worthy of more. You already are. You always were. Now your words finally match that truth. Now you've reached day 5. But this isn't the end. It's when things get real. 5 days is enough to feel a difference and see the power of speaking from identity, not fear. It's not just a phase. It's who you've wanted to be. You've done more than say new things. You've become someone who notices, chooses, and interrupts old patterns with truth. Now your job is simple. Keep noticing. You don't need to be perfect or repeat things exactly. No need to perform. Just pay attention. Keep checking in. Listen to your self-talk in quiet moments. If it doesn't fit who you're becoming, gently change it. That's all this is. Not self-help or hype. Just self-awareness. With practice, it gets easier. You'll notice the shift faster, feel it physically, and redirect almost effortlessly. It becomes your new rhythm. Not a trick, not a script, but your new standard. This is identity work. You've shifted more than a mindset. You've taken back your narrative. From now on, you choose the version of you that already has the life you want. Let this be your new normal. Let it guide your next step, thought, and decision. And when you're ready, comment below. I'm open to receive unexpected money. No pressure, no performance, just a quiet truth. Thank you for watching, for choosing yourself, and for becoming someone who no longer waits for financial freedom. You speak it, you live it, you are it. Hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one.